And Jen, we're good to start letting folks in. Good morning, everyone, in person and online. Our gathering song this morning is one that I wrote to be used for communal singing. So I hope as you catch on, you join in. It's got 3 parts, so you can pick it and choose. Oops. There we go. May I greet my body as a friend, Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body as a friend. May I greet my body as a friend. Love and tend my body like a friend. And I believe that Jen is in our bell tower, although she's got a funny virtual background at the moment. So you'll hear the bell tower. That's perfect.
Welcome to our beloved sanctuary, as well as our digital sanctuary on Zoom. And thank you, Jennifer, for that wonderful, humorous moment. My name is Tom Keitel, and I've been a member of this church for over 10 years now. Many thanks to Joel Neiditz, who is our volunteer AV coordinator this morning, and to Jennifer Bottomley, who is our Zoom usher. You who are here in person, we ask that you keep your mask on at all times while indoors, though worship leaders may take off their mask at the mic when distanced from others, depending on their own comfort level. As we begin our service today, we acknowledge that our church was built on the ancestral unceded land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonialism and the continuing harm done to Indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We come together to recognize and celebrate the gift of life for ourselves and for all the creatures with whom we share this planet. For the miracle of every breath, with wonder in our joys and compassion in our sorrows. We invite you all to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. If you're new to Theodore Parker Church or visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and help us welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill out the connection card you'll find in your pew with the bright yellow emblem. We'd like to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those who are joining us in person. So, AV folks, could you please pull out our sanctuary screen in the gallery view so that we can see our offsite congregation?
Offsite folks, give
Folks,
us a wave, we can see you.
there we go, give it away. Now, if you'd like to wave, and the folks in the
Magic.
sanctuary, the camera is actually behind you, so just below the clock. Folks in the sanctuary, let's give a big wave and hello to the folks joining us remotely. Wonderful. You can all have a seat now. And AV folks, could you put the sanctuary back on speaker view, please? We hope that each of you will find some comfort to carry with you over the week and some challenge for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, and a sense of peace. As our pianist Yukiko brings us into worship with the piece Leamington Spa by British experimental composer Howard Skempton, we bid you welcome.
Thank you, Yukiko. Good morning again. Happy May Day. We've made it to May, friends. May Day is a holiday with multiple resonances. May 1st is often celebrated as Beltane, as a spring festival, and our children in Children's Chapel would be honoring that with Rose. It's also International Workers' Day, so happy solidarity to you in May Day. And it's also the 6th anniversary of my ordination, so I always love May 1st. It's a sweet day. Thank you. It's as we enter May, we turn to the theme of cultivating beauty. And as I was writing in my newsletter column, I had all of these ideas about beauty that had to do with the outside world or noticing beauty in other people. Then I realized we also need to talk about beauty in ourselves and acknowledging each person as beautiful. So that is where we are headed in today's service. In that spirit, I share these words from Reverend Sharon Wiley called Wholeness. We speak so often of brokenness in religious life. Let us speak today of wholeness. You are welcome here, all of you, every part of you, beautiful just the way that you are. Here, you do not need to be something more or something less. No holding back, no hiding, no exerting yourself, no trying to do more or be more. You have inherent worth and dignity. Nothing to prove here, nothing to prove to me, or to the person sitting next to you, or to the children, or to anyone, you don't have to try and be witty or more quiet or more outgoing. You are beautiful just the way you are. You do not need to change anything about yourself to be welcome here. Your skin, your hair, your belly, your limbs, your face, all beautiful just the way they are. You are extraordinary. Each and every one of you different from each and beautiful in your own beautiful way. Breathtaking. Let us worship together. Our opening hymn today is Let All the Beauty We Have Known, which is set to an English folk melody arranged by renowned British musician Ralph Vaughan Williams. Its lyrics were written by 20th century Unitarian Universalist minister Dana McLean Greeley, who served congregations in New Hampshire and in Massachusetts. And he was the president of the American Unitarian Association at the time when it merged with the Universalists. And then he was the first president of the newly formed Unitarian Universalist Association. So as we sing, we invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, or just raise your voice in this celebratory hymn of beauty.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds. Rejoice in wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that binds. We celebrate with singing hearts the loveliness of sky and earth, the inspiration of the hearts, the miracle of every birth. Life's music and its poetry surround and bless us through our days. For these we sing in harmony, together giving thanks and praise.
Thank you. You may be seated. We light our flaming chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalist congregations and communities, with words of shared covenant. We'll say these words in English as Kathy Ware leads us, and then I'll lead us in the Spanish translation, which we say in honor of our sister community in Plazuelas, El Salvador. The words will be in the screen and on your chat.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Our coordinator of religious education, Rose Glogly, has a wonderful story for us all today.
So this morning, as we honor and celebrate the beauty of all bodies, I have a particularly magical story to share with you all. This is the story of a little girl who had internalized some ideas that made her think that the shade of her skin made her less than fully beautiful than she was. One day, she gets a very magical visit and that helps her to remember the brightness that shines within her and every person. Here's Solway by Lupita Nyong'o. Solway was born the color of midnight. She looked nothing like her family, not even a little, not even at all. Mama was the color of dawn. Papa was the color of dusk. And Meech, her sister, was the color of high noon. Hardly anyone at school looked like Solway either. People gave her sister, Meech, pet names rub off a layer or two of her darkness. That hurt. She crept into Mama's room and helped herself to her makeup. Oh no, she would hear about this from Mama. Solway decided to work from the inside out and ate only the lightest, brightest foods. With a stomach ache, she went to bed early and turned to God for a miracle. Dear Lord, why do I look like midnight when my mother looks like dawn? Please make me as fair as the parents I'm from. I want to be beautiful, not just to pretend. I want to have daylight. I want to have friends. If you hear me, my Lord, and would like to comply, may I wake up as bright as the sun in the sky. Amen. When Mama came to wake her for school the next morning, Solway rose to find not a trace of daylight in her midnight skin. Solway told Mama everything. Mama asked, "What's your name?" "Solway," she muttered. "And what does that mean?" "Star," Solway whispered. Brightness is not in your skin, my love. Brightness is just who you are. As for beauty, Mama said, rubbing Solway's stomach the way she always did to comfort her, you are beautiful. Solway sighed. Well, you are beautiful to me. But you can't rely on what you look to make you feel beautiful, my sweet. Real beauty comes from your mind and from your heart. It begins with how you see yourself, not how others see you. Now, up you get and out you go. How could she, as dark as she was, have brightness in her? How could she have beauty when no one but her mother seemed to see it? How could she be a star? That night, a shooting star appeared at Solway's window. The night sent me. The star said, "Come with me." Solway hopped on the star, and off they went. Long ago, at the beginning of time, said the star, there was night and day, and they were sisters. They loved each other very much. But people didn't treat the sisters the same. People gave Day pet names like lovely, nice, and pretty. People gave Night names like scary, bad, and ugly. She felt hurt every time. Well, Night got fed up and walked right off the earth. Day stayed behind and enjoyed making everyone happy in the sun. But then Day grew too long. Day began to really miss her sister. So did everybody else. There had to be a way to get her back. Day set off to find Night. And she did. I miss you, said Day. I miss you too, said Night. But you don't know what it's like to be treated badly for being dark. You're right, I don't, Day replied. But what I do know is that we need you just the way you are. Come and see. Night returned and the people rejoiced. We need the darkest night to get the deepest rest. We need you so that we can grow and dream and keep our secrets to ourselves. The stars chimed in. Brightness isn't just for daylight. Light comes in all colors, and some light can only be seen in the dark. While day had a golden glow, with night everything had a silver sheen, elegant and fine. Day told her sister, when you are the darkest is when you are most beautiful. It's when you are most you. Could it be that night did not need to change? Not even a little bit? Not even at all? Now that night and day were back together, a little bit of night returned to day in the form of shadows. A little bit of day returned to night in the form of moonlight. They were inseparable from that moment on and promised to celebrate the brightness in each other, whether people chose to see it or not. You see, the star explained, we need them both on their sunniest day and their darkest night, and every shade in between. Together, they make the world we know, light and dark, strong and beautiful. Solveig rose the next morning, beaming. There would be no hiding anymore. She belonged out in the world, dark and beautiful, bright and strong. And if she ever needed a reminder of her brightness, she could look up at the sky on the darkest night to see for herself. Solveig felt beautiful inside and out.
Thank you, Rose. What a gorgeous book, both in pictures that I wanted to dive into and live there, and in its message. I appreciate it so much. Invite us to center down. We'll sing our centering hymn, How Could Anyone? And here's a little bit about its backstory. How Could Anyone was written in 1988, and this simple song spread like wildfire, or wildflowers, to become an internationally beloved anthem of hope and healing, deeply touching the hearts of hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Libby Rodericks, who wrote it, originally recorded it in 1990 on a CD, and since then it's been featured on CNN, highlighted on a CBS special on about teens at risk, written about in newspapers, from the New York Times to the Hindustani Times, translated into many languages, used in movies, including Princess Di wearing it to the gym on a t-shirt. Or Lady Di, saying, Princess Di? Yeah, both. It has been used from every conceivable purpose to bring inspiration and affirmation to people struggling with every imaginable challenge and to celebrate the beauty of human beings everywhere. So I invite us to sing, How Could Anyone, knowing that we do all receive all kinds of messages all the time, and the ones we hear from each other, lifting each other up, matter a whole lot. So I invite you to rise in body or in spirit or in voice as we sing, How Could Anyone?
How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
I invite you to be seated for a time of meditation or prayer. We'll take this time of meditation first in words, then in about a minute or so of silence together, then in a musical meditation. Our words of meditation are from Susan Mackin. Come into this room, way into this chair. Breathe into this body, the very body that will be you, for better and for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Breathe into this body. Come into this day. Raise your gaze into this light, the one steadfast sun who watches over all growing beings, even you, even now. Breathe into this day. Come into this heart and break into the boundlessness of wild beauty. No beginning or ending in you, but flowing through like white water, reaching toward all that ever was and ever shall be. Breathe into this heart. We share now in a time of quiet. So may it be.
Thank you so much, Michael. Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and in sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. As Yukiko shares the musical piece Penumbra by Howard Skempton, please make an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope. Your donations are most gratefully accepted and received. Thank you.
Thank you, Yukiko. And friends, thank you for your generosity. Our reading today is called Beautiful Body by Natalie Patterson, and we'll share a video that has the audio of the poet herself reading it.
She said, "You have a beautiful body." And I could not comprehend the words. It was the first time in my entire life I had ever heard these words placed together and directed at me when I'm confused. I take big ideas and break them into smaller pieces, make them tiny enough to fit my world into. You have a beautiful body. You, meaning me, Natalie Patterson, daughter of Joe, Frank, and Lynn, meaning Midwest American black girl with skin and eyes light enough to confuse her own kind, meaning my own kind don't recognize me. You have a beautiful body. Have implies ownership, meaning I, Natalie Patterson, own something I never paid for, meaning some things are free, meaning I didn't earn it, so I don't know the value of it, might abuse or take it for granted. You have a beautiful body. A meaning one, meaning I, Natalie Patterson, own a single thing, one irreplaceable thing that does indeed die. You have a beautiful body. Beautiful meaning pleasing or satisfying, meaning I am appealing and desirable. I didn't know that. I've always been pretty with a bud if you only attached, never been just beautiful, stated as fact. You have a beautiful body. Body meaning physical structure, a place the spirit is held in, and I have never held even my lovers long enough to be good at it. You have a beautiful body. So I will repeat these words until I am no longer reluctant, until they are no longer foreign in my mouth. I will repeat these words. I have a beautiful body. I have a beautiful body. I have a beautiful body. Until ownership becomes a privilege, until this skin becomes a perfect home, weathered and worn over time, a perfect home whose walls I know well, whose staircase and old floors creak. My favorite song, I am my own favorite song that I'm just now learning all the words to, but I want to sing you. I want to sing you till the song sticks. I have a beautiful body, period.
I get goosebumps every time I listen to that. It's Natalie Patterson. As we begin our sermon today, a heads up that one of the stories that I'll share today about embodiment mentions sex, which folks might not be expecting to hear from the pulpit. Young or sensitive ears are welcome to take a break from the service if you'd like. My housemate and I have a new TV show that we've been watching together. Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls. Girls spelled G-R-R-R-L-S. If you don't know who Lizzo is, she is a Grammy-winning Black singer, rapper, and classically trained flautist whose music talks about race, sexuality, and body confidence. In the face of a lot of cruelly fat-phobic and racist comments on social media, she has continued to be bold, loud, and sexy. On her unscripted reality TV show, Lizzo is auditioning up-and-coming plus-size dancers for her upcoming tour. These dancers, collectively called Lizzo's Big Girls, are primarily women of color, and the person I rooted for throughout the season was a trans woman. And they are absolutely incredible athletes and artists. I was a dancer up through college, and I have never seen mainstream representation in dance like this. When Lizzo and the big girls are dancing, I can't take my eyes off the screen. They are breathtakingly beautiful and powerful. As I've been talking with friends about the show, I notice myself describing the dancers as unabashedly, unapologetically sexy. And it hit me. When did we absorb the idea that bodies of any size or color are things to be abashed about or apologetic about? Sonia Renee Taylor is a poet who, in the summer of 2010, was in Knoxville, Tennessee, to compete with her team in a slam poetry competition. Sonia was in a hotel room with her teammates getting ready for this competition when she uttered the words, "Your body is not an apology," for the first time. A phrase that would become a catalyst for the body positivity movement and would become the title of her book. This is one of those books where I have underlining on every page that I've read. Sonia's teammate, Natasha, was a 30-something-year-old living with cerebral palsy who was fearful that she might be pregnant. All of life was up in the air for Natasha, but she was abundantly clear that she had no desire to have a baby, and not with the person who'd been her occasional fling. Now, she and her teammate Sonia had a history of having complex and honest conversations with each other and Sonia had a background in sexual health and public health service. So she asked her friend why she had chosen not to use contraception with this casual partner. Natasha responded with her truth, saying, "My disability makes sex hard already. I just didn't feel like it was okay to make a big deal about using contraceptives." Social researcher and expert on shame and vulnerability, Brené Brown says, "If we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive." About this moment with her teammate, Sonia writes, "I understood the truth that Natasha was sharing. Her words pricked some painful underbelly of knowing in my own body. My entire being rang in resonance. A reel of memories scrolled through my mind of all of the ways I had told the world I was sorry for having this wrong, bad body. This body that is female, that is Black, that is aging, that is fat and bald and has mental illness. It's from this deep cave of mutual vulnerability that the words spilled out from Sonia, 'Natasha, your body is not an apology. It is not something you give to someone to say, sorry for my disability.'" Natasha began to weep, and for a few minutes, Sonia just held her maybe pregnant friend as she contemplated the fullness of what those words meant for her life, and for her body. There are times when our unflinching honesty, vulnerability, and empathy will create a transformative portal, an opening to create a completely new way of living. Such a portal was created that summer evening in Tennessee because as the words escaped Sonia's lips, some part of them remained stuck inside her. The words that she said to Natasha in that hotel room were as much for Sonia as they were for her friend. She was also telling herself, "Sonia, your body is not an apology." Beloveds, I am here today to tell you, your body is not an apology. Every body is a good body, inherently worthy of respect and dignity. Despite what society, religion, our families of origin, or the media may have taught us, there is no wrong way to have a body. There are so many amazing forces moving forward this idea into the world. I could talk about the incredible movements that are helping people accept and love their bodies as they are for days. There is the body positivity movement, or body liberation, or body acceptance, or body neutrality, or self-love. Or as Sonia Renee Taylor describes it, radical self-love, which has a theological resonance for me. Radical self-love is our inherent state of being as worthy and enough. It is the unobstructed access to our highest self. So let's start there, the theological statement that all bodies are good bodies. That's a good starting place for us. Let's work on weeding out body shame from our own self-talk, from our conversations with each other, from the way that we bring up the children in our lives. And look, it's hard and it is pervasive. The media and consumerist culture have worked really hard and made a lot of money on us thinking that our bodies are not blank enough, or are too fill in that blank. And when we talk about weight and size, the refrain often comes up that I'm just worried about their health. There's a lot that I want to say about this, none of which I'm really an expert in, but I'll just say two things. That A, health is not synonymous with weight or size. And B, health is not an achievable status for everyone. I invite you to look up the Health at Every Size movement if you want to learn more. All of this matters. Lest these concepts be written off or belittled as being about not hurting sensitive people's feelings, I appreciate the way The Body Is Not an Apology says it, that our beliefs about bodies disproportionately impact those whose race, gender, sexual orientation, ability, and age deviate from our default notions. The further from default, the greater the impact. We are all affected, but not equally. Sonia Renee Taylor expands on this, saying, "Our work must be radical if we are to combat the consistent inundation of toxic media messages, laws, and regulations seeping body shame and body-based oppression into every aspect of our society. Inequity in our government and healthcare systems, manipulation in our media, no matter the structure under examination, ultimately, each of us bears the personal, social, and political burden of a widespread and deeply troubling relationship with bodies. The results of these centuries of infusing body shame into every sector of public and private life include gross inequality and disenfranchisement across social experiences, poor public health outcomes, and unjust legislation, especially impacting female, queer, and trans bodies. There's good news. The good news is that if body shame is something that we learn, that means it's something that we can unlearn. Babies aren't born with body shame. They're born with body joy. They go, ooh, a foot, that's neat. Can I put it in my mouth? When did each of us learn to be ashamed of different parts of our body or our skin tone or our abilities? When were we taught that people of your gender don't blank? We can unlearn it. Because if you ascribe to a spiritual belief that each person was made in the image of the divine, or that each person has inherent worth and dignity, then we are called to recognize the divine and goodness in every body of every shape, gender, orientation, skin tone, age, or ability. The more that each of us unpacks our own body experience, names it, and empowers others to accept and love our bodies, the more that other people have permission to do the same. In her book called Divining the Body, author and speaker Jan Phillips writes, "It is through our stories that we begin to name ourselves, to say who we are under all the social trappings and to emerge from those trappings like a butterfly from a chrysalis. We are midwives in a way to each other's rebirth, an attempt to undo the damage we've sustained living in a culture that thrives on our self-hatred." Phillips concludes, "It is a sanctification of our human bodies, a journey of awe and reverence." I'll share a story that I found of one young adult coming to emerge from that chrysalis to undo those social trappings that they had learned about beauty. This story comes by way of an organization called The Body Positive, which is a nonprofit organization that teaches people to listen to their bodies in order to learn and thrive. Their ultimate goal is to end the harmful consequences of negative body image, especially in teens and young adults, including eating disorders, depression, anxiety, self-harm, substance abuse, and relationship violence. The Body Positive does this by training educators and student leaders to create body positive programs in their schools and communities. One of their former interns offered this reflection anonymously on their website. They write, "At the age of 14, I really thought I was open-minded about beauty. But the appreciation was totally cerebral. I never actually felt the beauty in different sorts of bodies, never experienced it with my senses. Just before graduating high school, I began interning with the Body Positive. I was going through what seemed like a million changes at that time, and needing an outlet for my confusion, I got into visual art. I drew pastel landscapes of the Mono Lake Basin Desert, created twisting patterns in the Stinson Beach sand, and made a variety of abstract watercolor paintings in my bed at night. The more weeks I spent with the self-loving, diversely bodied individuals of the Body Positive, the more I grew to see them as works of natural art. And I examined them with the same close attention I gave to the patterned sticks and the tender ridges on the inside walls of a bell pepper." The anonymous young adult continues, "As a kid, I liked to soften my gaze completely until my eyes lost focus and things became abstract, Rothko-esque blobs, no longer defined by their everyday purposes. At 17, I discovered that by letting my mind relax in the same way, I could stop measuring beauty by how closely somebody fit the ideal and start going by pure visual intrigue. There were so many entrancing things I had completely dismissed. Aside from their fascinating appearances, I found culturally shamed body parts especially beautiful because of what they represented. Wrinkles, for instance, are unique records of every expression over one's life, delicately crinkling and creasing into deep, firm lines. My mother expresses embarrassment about the loose flesh of her belly, but it is a product of all the stretching that allowed her to give birth to me. The squishy softness, a symbol of the strength and flexibility that parenthood requires. My best friend's scars are another wonder because they show the body's amazing ability to heal, if only partially at times. My great uncle's age spots show a long existence of growing and learning, having access to memories of a time that I know I can never touch." They continue, "And noticing these parts on others makes me understand the true beauty in what I used to call my flaws. I love my funny ears that stick out, the intensity of my facial expressions, my straight hips and subtle curves, the fast-growing hair under my arms and my short legs." The writer concludes, "Like everyone, I am a natural wonder, deserving of awe. And it's so much more fun to live with this knowledge because I can actually experience the loveliness of those around me rather than acknowledging it vaguely with my head turned away. I see truly exciting things and others feel delighted when I tell them what I see. We are breathtakingly beautiful when we let ourselves be. Every body is a good body, inherently worthy of respect and dignity." One more reflection that I want to share from my colleague, Reverend Casey Kavajnika Slack, who describes themselves as a UU pagan queer femme activist who has been involved in creating queer and trans community spaces, as well as a podcast called Bad Fat Broads. I love every descriptor in that sentence. In a chapel service at Star King School for the Ministry with other seminarians, Reverend Casey Slack shared this reflection with their classmates. We talk a lot in our communities about how to be welcoming to folks from all ways of life, how to feel like home for people who have never been home, how to be safe for people so commonly hurt by an unsafe culture. And I'm so glad we do this, but how often do we talk about coming home to ourselves? I know that for me, Casey says, it is so much easier to be open and accepting and loving towards other people. They continue, I have almost endless space in my heart for other people's flaws, perceived or otherwise. I love being with people who have different experiences than I do. I love what I see in others the same way I love flowers. The things other people might find imperfect, I find beautiful. I'm grateful for their variety. I am the first to push back when a friend or acquaintance is being hard on themselves. I think it's my job to show up for my people in their struggles. And sometimes I don't think any of that stuff applies to me. I've spent years unlearning internalized fat phobia, biphobia, femphobia, and the stigmatization of mental health issues. And still, some days I wake up and I wish I could just be normal. Some days this body and this life feel like too much. Some days I want to break from being me. I bet we've all had these days. We all have these things, Casey continues. The stuff we hide as best we can and hope that nobody notices. The stuff we were taught was wrong about us, that would make people not like us or not love us. We are fat and queer and trans and black and brown. We're people who are chronically ill and who experience mental health problems and who interact with the world in a way different from the norm. We are people with bodies and lives that we are supposed to believe are wrong. We're told to hide, to disappear, to blend the best we can, to kill pieces of ourselves so that someone else may think we're okay. But we are okay. We're more than okay. We're beautiful. Casey invokes Psalm 139, that we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. We are stardust. We are the universe experiencing itself. We are, each of us, a miracle. Reverend Casey concludes with this invitation, which I extend to us today. Find something that reminds you of you, a way to remember on the days that are hard. Listen to your favorite music, put on your favorite outfit, get up, dance. Love yourself like you love the world. Love yourself like you love God, if that's a thing you do. Be brave when you can. Be you loudly and fiercely. Make space in the world for someone like you. And know that your community has got your back. How could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? Your beauty is abundant. Your worth is abundant. You matter so much. And if anyone tries to tell you that you don't, that you're not, quote the poet Saul Williams. Never question who I am. God knows, and I know God personally. In fact, she lets me call her me. Beloveds, your body is not an apology. Every body is a good body, inherently worthy of dignity and respect. Despite what society, religion, or our families of origin or the media might have taught us, there is no wrong way to have a body. You are beautiful, every part of you beautiful just the way you are. You do not need to change anything about yourself to be welcome here. Your skin, your hair, your belly, your limbs, your face, all beautiful, just the way they are. You are extraordinary, each and every one of you, different from each, and beautiful in your own beautiful way. Breathtaking. Amen. Our closing hymn today is De Colores. It's a folk song found throughout the Spanish-speaking world, often cited with ties to Mexican folklore. We thought it would be perfect lyrically for our theme as well as for the day. The song has become associated with the Catholic Cursillo movement, which teaches spiritual leadership where it originated in Spain. A story from the early days of that movement in Spain tells of an occasion where a group of men were returning from a Cursillo weekend when their bus broke down. They began to sing De Colores, which they knew as a traditional folk song, and the use of the song in Cursillo took hold, and the phrase, in colors, De Colores, had come to mean being in God's grace. So Cursillo participants greet each other with the phrase, De Colores. And fittingly for this May Day, the song has also become an unofficial anthem of the United Farm Workers. It has many verses both in Spanish and various English translations. Today we'll sing verse 1 in Spanish, and then the English verses 1 and 2 as are listed in your hymnals. It'll all be up on the slides. Yukiko will play it through for us once before we join in the Spanish. Let's join in singing, and you're invited to stand as you feel comfortable.
All the colors, yes, the colors of people parading on by with their banners. All the colors of banners and streamers and
Beautiful. You may have a seat. Following our postlude, we'll have a series of invitations and announcements, followed by social time, breakout rooms online, as well as actual coffee hour in the parish hall for those in person. But first, our closing words by Susan Carlson. We leave blessed by our connections to one another, to the Spirit of life. Walk or travel lightly, that you see the life that is below you. Spread your arms as if you had wings and could dance through the air. Feel the joy of the breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. Live to love and be a blessing on this earth. So may it be. Amen. Thank you, Yukiko. A number of announcements and invitations and gratitudes. So a lot is going on today. At the close of this service, we're having two different options for those who are newer comers to Theodore Parker Church or to Unitarian Universalism, hosted by our welcoming ministry. If you are online and would like to chat with me and I think Mary Beth Noonan about what is Unitarian Universalism, what is Theodore Parker Church, what is it like to become a member, and what does that mean? When we do breakout rooms, just decline the breakout room, just say no thanks, and stay in the main room, and we'll have a conversation there. If you are in person and would like to chat with someone, want to head over to the parish hall where there's a coffee hour set up with windows open and all of that. Go into the parlor, which is the smaller room, for a conversation there as well. You can also reach out to me or anyone on the welcoming ministry team if you'd like to learn more about becoming a member. We'll be welcoming our new members in the service in a couple of weeks. And then we invite you to stick around because at 1 o'clock in the parish hall, Rose and I will be facilitating a candlelight conversation on shared ministry. Candlelight, even though it is daytime, there will be candles. We invite you to come. Shared ministry being the way that we all do and make church together, the way that every part of this church life does ministry. So I can work on the grammatical proficiency of that sentence at some point. There are two different fundraising walks coming up. Walk for Hunger was already today, which is amazing, a virtual walk. Next Sunday, the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute's hosting their annual Mother's Day Walk for Peace. I believe Julie McVeigh is helping to organize that. If you want to be a part of it or donate, the team name is Theodore Parker Walkers. And throughout this month, Deb Ferenz is helping organize fundraising for onefor3.org, which is a Palestinian health campaign. So I invite you to reach out to Deb as well. Okay, Finally, I'm going to pass it over to John Lambert, who's our chair of our standing committee. I'll put him on spotlight. And then I'm going to have Gretchen and Carrie come on up. Hold on one moment. Let me find John in this and spotlight him. There he is, John. So you should be able to unmute now. And there you are.
Thank you. Yes. So I'm going to repeat an announcement I made last Sunday, just recognizing that some people may not have been present last Sunday. So the Standing Committee has, after consultation with Christine Purcell at the UU Transitions Office, started the process for establishing a search committee, a ministerial search committee. And for a congregation of our size, that'll be about 6 people. So over the next couple of weeks, in fact, it's already started, a member of the Standing Committee will be reaching out to each member of the church or member household, probably by phone, but maybe an email first to set up a time. And the purpose of this is to have a conversation around these questions, amongst others. So what you would think would be the good qualities needed for someone to serve on the ministerial search committee. Who would work well with others, who would be trusted by others, who would listen well, and fundamentally, who would represent and serve the whole congregation in this search. And so my message is really to plant the seed in your mind so you can be thinking about these questions before you actually have the conversation with a member of the Standing Committee. The 9 members of the Standing Committee have divided up the list of members and will be making contact with you. And so this is just to stimulate your thoughts in advance of that conversation. One thing to note is that the people on the search committee must be members of the church. And ultimately, the voting to approve the search committee established by the Standing Committee, and ultimately next year the vote to approve a minister. All of that is for members only. So for those people who have been thinking about becoming members, now is the time, so you could be a full participant in this process. Though I would also say that we'll certainly be having many meetings over the next year, and there'll be opportunities for friends of the church to actually comment and provide their thoughts to the search committee, but the search committee itself must be members. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, John. So if y'all see an unknown number calling you in the next week or two, give it the benefit of the doubt. It might be somebody from church. And finally, I want to invite up Carrie and Gretchen to say some sweet words about some beloved members who are moving away, who we're sad about. So if you'd like to come on up to the lectern here.
Well, it's with sadness that I want to wish both Mark and Beth Bauer great success as they move away and start a new life closer to their children and grandchildren in Connecticut. And we want to thank them so much for the service that they've given us here at Theodore Parker Church these many years. I've had the pleasure to get to know both of them, mostly through their work in social and racial justice. I was reminiscing with some people here from the church recently that when I first came here, Mark and I sat down over Recreo to talk about the Racial Justice Task Force, and he was so welcoming and generous. and said, yeah, you know, you should come aboard. And I did, and ended up being on the guiding group, and I got to know him and have appreciated his wisdom and generosity and humility and compassion in the work that he does. And you know, the years that he's spent as co-chair of the guiding group. And Beth, you were really instrumental in helping me make a decision to be the chair of the standing committee next year. You said you'd be here to help guide me, but I have your number. I have your number. So, but seriously, the gifts that you've both given Theodore Parker these many years are so appreciated, and we're going to miss you very much. And we want you to know that we send you off with love. You've touched our hearts, and our doors are always open for you. Thank you.
Thank you. But wait, there's more.
So thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Mark and Beth, for your incredible and many gifts that you have brought to the church over many years. I actually looked up in my copious church notes various dates and ways that mostly Beth has been involved, because Beth has had many different jobs here since they joined in 2013, including Standing Committee Vice Chair and Chair. And then Beth went on to do one of the most difficult jobs, I think, in the church, which is to serve in the nominating committee for 3 years. What else? Beth was one of the founders of our Plazuelos Sister City project, along with Kevin Murray, and was very active with our sanctuary guest program and Josue, and which went on for quite a long time. It was very challenging work. Beth also has tabled in front of the church in our community, and Mark too, sorry, with our community conversations on race and justice. And then finally, Beth has been serving on the transition team. Is that correct?
That is so correct.
That is so correct. So I've been personally going, and then I almost forgot stewardship. Beth was the on the founding stewardship team, where we sort of hashed out how we were going to change how we manage stewardship in the church. And she was just incredibly wise and thoughtful, and always willing, never said no to anything. Beth you just could rely on her to just take the ball, and just so dependable, and so and did everything with such grace and such love. It was a pleasure to work with her on that project. So I've been going through phases of denial and grief, and now I'm at acceptance, and just want to express how thankful I am to have gotten to know both of you in your years at the church, and understand that it's time for you to move back close to family, but you'll always be part of our family, and we hope you'll come back and see us as often as you can. And we actually have something to give you today. So if you came up, then we could hand this to you personally. These are irises from our church garden that we want to send to New Haven with you. So that your new garden will have some of your church garden.
Thank you all. We love you all.
And with that, and our gratitude and thanks and love go with you two all, and go with you all to coffee hour and breakout rooms as well. So again, newcomers are welcome to decline the breakout room invitation or find folks in the parlor. Go in peace, go and be blessed as you are a blessing.